Fantastic. Thank you so much for that introduction. My name is Daniela Barbosa, and as Marco said, I'm the Executive Director of the Hyperledger Foundation and also serve as the General Manager across the Linux Foundation for all blockchain and identity projects. Good morning and good afternoon to everyone that is attending today on my talk on how open source Web3 technologies can help level the playing field and maybe do a little smashing of the tech patriarchy as well. As I just said, I'm Daniela Barbosa, and it's an honor really to be here at the Women in Tech Global Audience event, and really to share with you how some core principles in open source that are focused on building diverse communities and open development process will help ensure that the promise of Web3 that we all are looking for, and hopefully bring many of you on board into our ecosystem to help us build better together. A little bit about the Linux Foundation. At the Linux Foundation, we facilitate industry-critical open source projects with billions of lines of code. Today, we have over 775,000 developers contributing code across 850 plus critical open source projects. These are things that touch you every single day, every place you go where technology is a part of. We estimate a total of $54 billion in total shared value that the code and the projects that sit under the Linux Foundation and the contributions by developers bring to the market. As a community, we host over 25,000 community meetings that range across all industries and technologies. So the Linux Foundation and our projects and our community members are really critical part of modern technology around the world. The thing is that study after study reveals that diversity and participation in technology projects produces better outcomes and more robust technologies, that diverse communities are simply stronger communities, and open source is core to that. If we look at the Linux Foundation across our organization and in many of our open source projects, those 850 that I mentioned, diversity is key. While the tech industry has an average of 32.9% women, at the Linux Foundation, 52% of our staff are women, with 32% of us, including myself, serving in executive positions. This is nearly 3 times as many as Silicon Valley tech companies. We also have an impressive amount of women on our project boards, with almost double the tech industry average. This is so important, as these are important strategic projects. One of my own foundations, the Hyperledger Foundation board, we recently hit 44% women. This is all by design, because we know that when we are building critical software to power global systems, building diverse teams are needed, and open source is no difference. This really matters because we build better teams and communities when we are diverse. In addition to the many diversity programs, including scholarships and mentorships, our events team has rolled out, for example, comprehensive diversity and inclusion policies, such as free childcare, because how many of you have wanted to go to conference and couldn't because you had a child at home? Nursing rooms for new moms, all gender restrooms, and many more things. Diversity inclusion special events, summits at all conferences, prohibiting all male speaker panels. How I so wish that Web3 conferences and events would adopt that very quickly. And strongly enforcing our code of conduct, making sure that all are welcomed and feel welcome in our communities. These are extremely important. But the reality is that the vast majority of people in open source are still men. Some 82% of respondents in a 2021 survey were men, compared to only 14% women, and 4% identifying as non-binary. So our communities at the developer level still have a lot to do, and I hope that many of you here today consider participating in some of our open source projects. We also build for social impact. Across the Linux Foundation, we build for social impact because we know that it's important to bring equality into many regions around the world, with many of our projects and project technologies helping build more sustainable and equitable world across so many sectors, including important climate and sustainability projects. For example, Circular, which is a project that is tracking sustainability of minerals for electronic car vehicles, really impacts the way that those local communities where the mining is done. So lots of great projects that really impact diversity across social impact. With over 20 years of experience across so many industries and tech innovations, the Linux Foundation knows that open source Web3 technologies can further help level the playing field for women and help build a more inclusive society. Let's start by taking a look at where we are today. We have Mark Zuckerberg, Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, and now Elon Musk. These are some of the men at the center of the current internet. But reminder, the internet was founded to provide global access to data and communications. And the network was intentionally developed to survive and thrive as distributed communication systems. But thanks to the evolution of web technologies in Web 1 and Web 2, which I'll define in a bit, the data and therefore the power is largely centralized on a few key platforms. At first glance, that might seem okay to you. You can log in with Facebook or with Google to sites around the world and go about your business without any added effort. Not really a lot of friction to do that. But what happens, like what recently happened with Twitter, when that platform that controls your identity no longer provides you that service? So where the data goes, the money goes, and the influence goes as well. Today, the power players, both in tech and finance, are fully in the driver's seat. And you, as the end users, have lost control over your information, your opinions, your transactions, and more. But I believe there is a better way, and a shift to Web3 is about breaking the centralized power structure of the internet and returning to a vision of a decentralized network. If you recall, that was the goal of the internet. The blockchain and related technologies that we host here at the Hyperledger Foundation have a central role in the technical infrastructures of Web3. Starting in 2015, we began building a community to address the needs of these new decentralized systems across many projects that now are core building blocks to many enterprise deployments, always growing and addressing market needs year after year. From distributed ledger frameworks that are powering some of the largest enterprise blockchain ecosystems in supply chain, to projects dealing with interoperability and those tackling digital identity and verifiable credentials, a key component of Web3. Hyperledger Foundation is a home to foundational open source projects that power important financial infrastructures, and building these projects with a diverse community is key to our success, and it's key to the success of these new digital systems. We don't want to build the same systems with the same people. And so we have a big responsibility to make sure that technology is built in ways that will finally level what I call the playing field. In the current Web 2.0 model, users rely on centralized platforms like social media sites, search engines, and online marketplaces to connect, communicate, and transact. However, these platforms often collect and exploit user data, limit user control, and are susceptible to censorship and other forms of centralized control. Web3 technologies such as blockchain, decentralized storage, and decentralized applications, also known as DApps, offer an alternative to that centralized Web 2.0 model. They enable users to take ownership and control of their data, connect and transact directly with others, and participate in decentralized communities and marketplaces. Sounds pretty good to me. Looking across some common definitions of Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3, I see Web 1 as a read-only era. It's primarily used to find information like a digital library. Think of an online digital encyclopedia. You type your search into Google and you get the information you want. Web 1 had really few monetization methods, not really many ways to make money. And users were consumers while the service providers created all the content and gated all the content. Web 2 became a read-write. There, we offer social connectivity. People can connect with one another on platforms. It is centralized, and only a few control all the data and access, as I mentioned before. Personal information, including your identity, your social graph, are collected and controlled by these service providers and can quickly just remove them as well. They have full control. In Web 3, we talk about read, write, and own. There's an ownership level of digital assets and information. It prioritizes decentralization and transparency and adds user control, something that I think is much needed for our digital future. Blockchain technology provides a decentralized and tamper-proof ledger that can enable secure and transparent transactions without the need for intermediaries. You could build new businesses and new ways to interact without having to have the same intermediaries providing that trust level. So decentralized applications provide new ways for users to interact with each other and exchange value in a peer-to-peer method. I can exchange value with my peers without having to have an intermediary or someone providing that. We all know how to make trust decisions in the real world. We have for centuries evolved the necessary infrastructure for identification, registration, credentialing, monitoring, and enforcement of those trust relationships we have with both individuals and organizations. But trust in the digital world is a much newer and harder problem, a problem made worse because the internet was not designed with security, privacy, and trust as primary objectives. Therefore, its success has magnified these flaws into everyday headlines about data breaches, ransomware attacks, misinformation, surveillance, and other collapses in digital trust. Decentralized identity, also known as self-sovereign identity, is a concept that refers to a system where individuals own and control their own digital identities without the need for a centralized authority or those intermediaries again. In a decentralized identity system, users have complete control over their personal data, such as their name, their date of birth, and other identifying information. They can choose to share this information with third parties, such as banks or social media platforms, without having to reveal any additional data beyond what is necessary for that specific transaction. Decentralized identity is a core tenet of Web3. It offers the potential for individuals to have greater control over their personal data and privacy, while also providing a more secure and efficient way to manage our own digital identity information. Our Linux Foundation digital trust initiatives, including Hyperledger Foundation, is where open source projects and decentralized applications and Web3 are covered to address our digital trust needs. Other projects like the Open Wallet Foundation are working towards an open digital wallet engine that is interoperable and multi-purpose. And our standards and specification orgs like DIF, which is a Decentralized Identity Foundation, and Trust over IP, are working on the trust frameworks that many of the new internet infrastructure will use. There's still a lot of work for us to do for sure, but here's the good news. We already have strong leaders. Here are just some of the people that are helping us build this new digital world, some of my own heroes. Women like Sheila Warren, who's the CEO of the Crypto Council for Innovation, Sandra Rowe, who's the CEO of Global Blockchain Business Council, Christian Smith, CEO of Blockchain Association, Perry Ann Boring, CEO of the Chamber of Digital Commerce, Heather Dahl, a leader in digital identity and CEO of Indicio, Sofia Lopez, founder and president at Kaleido, and Maida Parloka, CTO at Casper Labs. These are just a few of the leaders who are critical to bringing new and diverse forces into the development of these technologies and the applications they power. And of course, there is a place for you. So we do welcome you to join us in this quest to build a better, and more diverse internet and digital future. Thank you for joining me and helping us build better together.
Thank you so much, Daniela. The meaningful questions that came through during the chat while you were on today are really wonderful. So we are right at time, but I would encourage you to pop in there if you have time, Daniela, because some really wonderful discussion happening, wondering more about decentralized identity, barriers to adopting open source and Web3 technologies, and how you can help address them, and topics that could be a whole other talk, Daniela. So you've inspired some really meaningful discussion.
Great.
Thank you so much.
Great, and join us. Thank you so much for having us.